This is a Caterpillar CT680 tractor and a Frankenstein of a lowboy. Now this set was made by Tonkin and it's in 1/50th scale. It's a pretty nice set, but it's got a couple issues, and I'm gonna do what I can to kind of point that out a little bit. Starting off with the tractor. The tractor itself, it looks good sitting on the shelf. I think Tonkin did a pretty fair job with them. It's got a lot of little things that kind of stand out. That, like I said, it looks good sitting on the shelf, but once you really kind of look at it a little bit closer, there's some things that aren't quite as great. First off, the doors don't open up like they do on every other Tonkin truck, and the hood doesn't open up either. So basically, there's very little interior detail, and there's no motor or anything in the tractor itself, which is a little disappointing. There's no pedestal back here, no hoses or nothing, which again is kind of disappointing. It does have steering. It's got that 3-position steering, which doesn't really do a whole lot. There's a little bit of detailing underneath the truck and between the frame and all that. You have 2 drive axles and 1 drop axle here. Now, the drop axle doesn't work, but it is dual wheels, which is interesting. It's not singles. You have a little bit of fair detailing here. I like the steps on the one side and the air tanks on the other side. The fuel tank looks good. The DEF tank looks good. The mirrors mostly look good. If you just, like I said, just sit on the shelf, it looks fine. But if you look a little closer, you can see like this mirror it's kind of bent, and if you set a bunch of these Caterpillar tractors up side by side, you'll see a lot of inconsistencies in the mirrors. Some of them, it's the way the plastic's bent. Some of them, they're glued into different spaces or different spots. And just sitting by itself, it looks great. But you set a bunch of them next to each other, you'll notice it. And the same goes for the emblem here on the grill. You see it's kind of got bungled up there a little bit, which, again, it's one of those things, just sitting on the shelf, you never see it. But once you notice it, you see it every time. So that's just something to think about. Now this particular tractor is interesting. The 5th wheel here will not hold a trailer. I mean, it'll set in there just fine, but if you go to move the tractor, the trailer won't come along with it. It'll just slide right out. And like I said, what's interesting, if you take this other tractor here, same Caterpillar, same Tonkin, I can't find any differences between the 2 5th wheels. It's just, there's nothing different. They're the same height. There's no parts missing. The plate that it's on they're both facing the same way. This one will hold a trailer, but this one will not. So it's kind of interesting. I can't find the difference, but one works and one doesn't. So that's just something that's, again, it's an inconsistency. Now, one thing that's interesting that I'd never noticed before until, I really got to looking at this because it wouldn't hold a trailer, is that the 5th wheel slides. It'll move back and forth in the rack here. Which, like I said, I'd never noticed it before, never thought to look at it. But it's kind of interesting that it does actually do that. Something else, if you look in the box here, there's a pair of grab rails or hand rails, whatever you want to call them, for the stacks. And if you look real close, you can see where they either were glued in and fell off, or somebody tried to glue them in. Who knows? But they're taped in the back of the box. I've gotten a couple of these trucks that were like that. So I don't know exactly why you'd have glue here but not have the handrails on. So I don't know what the story is there. I guess if you want to put them on, you can glue them on yourself. But it seems to me somebody tried to glue it on there and it just didn't work. So they gave up on it. So anyway, that's the tractor. Like I said, it's not terrible but not good. Now the trailer. See, I called this a Frankenstein Lowboy because it's kind of a mixture of different combinations. this is something that you probably never see this set up in real life, and I'll try my best to explain this here. So basically, if you had a load on the trailer here, you got this long neck here for the Lowboy that comes to the Jeep, and basically this is your bearing point right here. So it's maybe not in the exact right spot, but you have 3 axles here and 3 axles here. So the front of this Lowboy is being held by 6 axles, or rather the weight is being carried by 6 axles. And then you come to the back and you only have 3 axles. So where I say that you'd never see this in real life is if you only have 3 axles carrying weight in the back, then having 6 up front doesn't gain you anything. And the weight laws are different across the states, but I'm pretty sure like this is one that you'd never see, because like this three extra axles, they wouldn't get you anything. Like technically overall, like yeah, you have more or less 9 axles, but the way it's set up with 6 up front and 3 in the back, they're not going to give that to you. So essentially, like having the Jeep here is more or less useless as far as like the states would go. And that's not a perfect explanation, but it's just real general. Now, if Tonkin had made this a little bit differently and made this a 2-axle Jeep, and then had this set up like a sword trailer with a 4th flip axle, that would be a little bit of a different story, because that's a little more realistic. Even better would be if you had like a 2-axle Stinger or a 3-axle Stinger. Like that would be ideal. That would basically make this, I want to say it's like a Super 13. I think that's what it is. It's again, this is, I'm going to butcher this. The California bridge law, whatever it's called, like I said, I'm going to butcher this. The 13-axle combination is good in California, and it'll get you pretty much, you'll be good for anywhere in the United States, more or less. So, like I said, if you had the 3-axle Stinger, and then the 3 axles on the trailer, and the 3-axle Jeep, and then 3 axles on the tractor, plus 1 gives you 13 axles, that'd be good for anything, and that'd be a great trailer set. That'd be a perfect Lowboy. But that's not what you have here. So, like, yeah, the Jeep is great, and I think the set is worth getting for the Jeep, because I think you can do a lot of different things with it. Same with this nice long neck here, because you can, I don't think it'd be too hard to modify the neck to fit other Lowboys, but the way it is just, it's not ideal. Now, one of the things that I'd actually never noticed until I picked the setup was I just assumed that the tractor would be 1/50th, because I knew that they were, and the Jeep and trailer would be 1/53rd, like the rest of the Tonkin trucks. But that's not really the case. The trailer itself, much to my surprise, and like I said, I'd never noticed this before, is actually 1/50th scale. I mean, if you look, this is a first gear Lowboy, first gear Talbot. And if you look at it, that is exactly the same size. I mean, this is just a little bit skinnier than the first gear. But as far as like the axles and the length of the deck and everything like that, and all the spacing and everything, it's exactly the same. And if you take a Norscot, the Norscot is just about the same too. So it's really kind of interesting. Like I said, I never noticed it before, but the Tonkin trailer is actually 1/50th. So that's pretty neat. It's something that's good to know. And I've seen it advertised as a 1/53rd trailer, but I don't think that's correct. It's actually 1/50th. So anyway, that's about all I have for it. I think overall it's definitely worth getting. It's worth getting just for the Jeep and just for that long neck. The Caterpillar tractors are not the best, but not the worst. And like I said, they look good sitting on the shelf. And I think it's worth, it's an interesting combination. And it's worth picking it up for that. Anyway, that's all I got. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask. And as always, thanks for watching.